Do you ever have a feeling of great gratitude for existence?
Of course.
Do you ever have?
I know. The chances are billions to one that I am on this planet as me and never will be again.
And I know I can't convince you that there is a God, nor do I really want to convince you there's a God. But I can only explain my experience, which is that I have a strong desire to direct that gratitude toward something or someone.
Of course.
And that thing is God.
We're mortal. We want to make sense of nature and science, and it's too unfathomable that everything in the universe was once crunched into something smaller than an atom.
But you don't know that.
Well,
you're just believing Stephen Hawking, and that's a matter of faith in his abilities.
Yes.
You don't know it yourself. You're accepting that because someone told you.
Yeah.
Okay, stop it there. Now that's... I mean, I didn't want to stop it there. There's actually... we have another point after this that, I want to cover, but I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, he does that very well.
And he did that really nicely because he left it hanging as if he didn't believe in the Big Bang.
Yeah.
So it's like, but you don't know that. And then he's like, do you not believe in the Big Bang? Like, that was the question when I first watched it. And then he pulls out his move, which is, we believe that. Yeah, fine. But it's only because you believe in Stephen Hawking and you have faith in him. You don't know that personally.
Yeah.
And that's a fantastic point because actually he's pointing out that this belief system he does actually hold, which is scientism.
Yeah.
Right? Which is that he accepts the claims of science in their entirety, is actually just nothing more than faith.
Yeah.
He has pure faith in the established mainstream scientific positions of the day. But, and let's just continue because can
I just add one thing to that?
Yeah, sure.
Which is that that's exactly right because, atheists will say that religious people are the only people with faith, but everyone, the atheists have faith as well. They have faith in what scientists are telling them, but that doesn't mean it's unjustified faith.
No, it's not unjustified. Exactly.
It can be justified faith in what scientists of certain kinds are telling you,
and he makes an argument that it is justified.
Yeah, but in the same way, you also can't then write off religious faith, right? Which is really in the Muslim context, faith means belief on the basis of evidence without complete certainty.
Yeah.
In the Christian context, unfortunately, it can mean belief in things which don't have evidence and are logically incoherent. Yeah. So you believe in the,
or not. Let's be generous. Not things that they cannot explain.
Okay, are
but
mysteries.
which are mysteries, which may be logically coherent to a higher intelligence, but not to human beings, but to us
who created us.
Created us. Yeah, I know we've got problems with it, but
okay, yeah, no, I know what you mean.
I'm just trying to say that they do hold. They believe that there is some logic to it. For example, the Trinity, even though it's an arithmetic impossibility, 1 is not 3 and 3 is not 1. Never shall the twain meet.
Yeah.
But they believe there is some dimension in which these potential things do make sense. But the point is that to us as human beings, yes, they are logically incoherent.
Yeah. So in the Christian context, there is things don't have to really
make sense in the here and now.
Make sense in the here and now, and you don't necessarily have to have evidence for your beliefs. Where in the Muslim context, faith is belief on the basis of evidence, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I'm 80% sure.
Yeah.
So that is a difference, and maybe has got the backs up of many atheists throughout the ages in the West. I think it has.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's continue with that because he makes an addendum point to this, which is worth covering in the same.
And another thing.
No, go on. Yeah.
Well, but science is constantly proved all the time. You see.
Okay, stop it there. Again, let's continue. Just run it till the end, then we'll give our final thoughts.
Something like any fiction, in any holy book, in any other fiction, and destroyed it. Yeah. Okay. In 1,000 years' time, that
nice little dig,
just as it was. Yes. Whereas if we took every science book, right, and every fact, and destroyed them all, in 1,000 years they'd all be back because all the same tests would be the same result.
That's good. That's really good.
So
That's really good.
I don't need faith in science. I don't need faith to know that probably if I jump out of a window.
Oh, it ends there.
It's a bit harsh. What happened? Did he?
So there's two things he says. He says science is constantly proven true all of the time. This is probably my favorite statement in this lovely little 2-minute 50 clip.
And I think a lot of scientists and atheists would kind of depart with him on that statement.
Yeah, I know. So let's go through a list of some of the scientific ideas of the past that have been.
First, it doesn't make sense. Like science is, if science is anything, it's a process of investigation through a certain.
It's not a thing.
Yeah,
it's not a body of correct knowledge.
But that's how they treat it.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
But yeah,
it's a body of knowledge that is evolving.
Yeah, and it's a method to investigate.
So actually, what he said, if you have a book of science and destroyed it 1,000 years later, no, it would be completely different. Actually, if you went to 1,000 years ago and you looked at their science And then you
that's a
looked
good
at our
point.
science today, guess what? It's radically different. Radically. You could go from Newtonian mechanics to post-Einstein. Radically different.
Yeah.
Right? You know, so even what we assume to be truths today from the scientific perspective, we may find that they are outer expressions of inner truths, of more subtle realities, which are actually different.
Yeah.
You know, which actually we didn't understand. We were only looking at a surface view, and that surface view is like when you start, you know, you do chemistry, they tell you the outer rings of an atom is goes 2 and then 6 and then 6, and you find it's 2, 6, 8, 16, you know, the number of electrons in the outer rings of the atom. I can't actually remember the correct numbers now, but I just know they lied to us at GCSE. But anyway, you know, it just blew my mind at A-level. But anyway, but scientific ideas that were debunked, you know, origin of the universe.
Yeah.
You know, Aristotelian, Aristotelian, you know, concept of the universe, which is that the universe has always existed, it's eternal, was blown out the water by the Big Bang Theory. And the Big Bang Theory was itself a phrase that was used and coined as a derogatory term by the person who first used it. I think it was Fred Hoyle on BBC Radio. You know, so it wasn't something that was welcomed. And the reason it wasn't welcomed because suddenly you had a beginning of the universe and therefore you needed a prime mover.
Yeah.
This is the specific problem that cosmologists have been trying to get away from for the last 100 years now since it happened. And Einstein hated the idea of the Big Bang. You know, so what's he talking about?
Yeah, like 120 years ago, everyone believed the universe was eternal because it's well, they didn't have evidence for it, but people resisted it, like Einstein, because it was messy. It's like, oh, now we have to think of a creator, you know, and people have said, was it Arthur Eddington? I can't remember. Said, you know, you could have inferred all the findings of modern physics by reading, you know, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, the beginning of the Bible. Yeah. Right. So it's, you know, it's led us back to that. So science has always proved right. Firstly, it doesn't make sense because science isn't a body of knowledge, but scientific claims, or claims more accurately, claims made by people who call themselves scientists.
That's what he means.
Are proved wrong all the time.
Yeah, all the time. So determinism, quantum mechanics was demonstrated to throw that out the window. Phrenology and eugenics. I mean, the gall to be talking about the claims of science that have been proven true, and science is always true after what happened in World War II with the eugenics movement manifesting in the Nazi Party.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, phrenology and eugenics was around for a long time. Whole of the 19th century, they would be studying, you know, psychiatrists would be studying the skull shape of people to determine whether they were...
Was it that long? I don't know if it was that long.
No, it was. I just watched a really good movie called The Professor and the Madman.
All right.
You know, it's situated in 1870, I think, that movie, and they were using phrenology in that movie. So I'm assuming that movie was correct. But, you know, phrenology was a science throughout the late 19th century, early 20th century.
And eugenics, post-Darwinism.
And eugenics, and came out of that and was part of that, you know, they thought that by looking at the skull shape of a person, they could tell whether they were going to be intelligent or well-behaved and a good citizen, etc.
Yeah, they did to white people, brown
people, and it was all based
people.
on, it was all based on, well, if you have a shape of the skull like a white male from London, you were like literally the top of the food chain. And if you were black from West Africa and you had his skull shape, well, then you were an absolutely abysmal creature who had no moral qualities and you were thick. Okay. And in between, depending on where you are on that spectrum, was the degree to which you were, you know, more human or more animal, which is how they saw it. So phrenology and eugenics was intimately tied in with, you know, cultural racism.
And eugenics was founded by
Galton, Darwin's brother. Darwin's cousin.
Yeah, and then accelerated in Germany.
Exactly. So, I mean, then you have like the whole of the history of medicine is just basically false. You know, no, I shouldn't say that. A lot of the history of medicine was founded upon incorrect. I think a lot of it was based on correct observations, but incorrect explanations for those observations. Like,
probably. That's probably a much more fair.
Yeah, so they try to understand, and that's what Aristotle did.
Humours,
you know, Aristotle observed things, and then he like tried to infer concepts from that, and actually he was like wrong.
Well, no, he did a bit of both, but he did a lot also from the grounds up, and oh, this must be right philosophically, therefore this is true. But he actually kind of did both.
So tell everybody what the ether is.
I mean, I don't know that well, but it's widely known as a discredited theory that there was like this invisible medium through which kind of inhabited the whole of space. And some people say, you know, maybe there's aspects of it are correct, but it was widely deemed to actually have had no evidence and then debunked.
It'll probably be found to be true in 200 years in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Okay, so then Martian canals.
Yeah, so this was based on observations of Mars through telescopes, and they thought that there were canals because they saw contours. And then it came out that there was a different explanation for that based on the geological processes.
But at the time, they thought they were canals.
Yeah, and interestingly,
that's
that led to speculations of. I mean, it wasn't all scientists that believed this for sure, but some people did, and it led to speculations that there's a Martian civilization.
Okay, and there's spontaneous generation.
Yeah, the idea that germs basically come out of nothing, right?
Yeah, instead of invading from the outside.
Yeah.
Which is, demonstrated false by the Swan neck Swan neck flask experiment. Mm-hmm. So basically, this is basically Ricky Gervais taking all things that are true, saying again, oh, that's me. I believe in things that are true. You people believe in all things that are false. And he's forgetting the fact that
I believe in good, you believe in bad.
Yeah. So basically, he's forgetting the fact that actually the history of science is littered with more theories that are false than theories that were true.
Okay. And he's assuming that everything that he believes now is correct.
Yeah.
Whereas a Ricky Gervais in 100 years would be saying, obviously not those theories. Those were wrong. That was wrong. But what we know is correct.
And 100 years ago, he would have been espousing the value of phrenology and eugenics, perhaps.
I mean, yes.
Who knows?
Someone in his
in his position, perhaps.
Absolutely.